Yeah, what's up, Jose? How are you, man?
Oh man, good. It's finally get to talk with you and actually see your face for the first time. I think in
I
life.
know, right? Yeah, dude.
How are
It's
things are
funny because
going?
we all know each other's name, art,
Right.
like all this stuff. But it's like, hey, I've never met you in person yet.
How are things going?
Going pretty good, man. Just hectic mornings. We have a 3-year-old, so it's just getting him out of the door, getting him to school, that kind of thing.
Oh wow, is that your firstborn?
Yeah, first kid. I think it's gonna be our only child.
Yeah,
We want to have more kids, but it ain't working out. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I don't know
Yeah,
what you mean
yeah,
because I don't have any, but yeah, I know. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Dude, sick wall in the back, man.
Oh, thanks, dude. A lot of I'm a big car enthusiast, so it's kind of nice, like art, cars, and stuff like that. So
That's nice. Are you also into skateboarding too?
not so much skateboarding, but a friend makes like these boards,
Yeah.
and I just thought they were cool. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, I started
that's
picking them
dope.
up and decorating the wall and stuff. Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. Doing art
Hmm.
for freaking what is it like almost 20 years now?
Yeah. Almost 20 years. Yeah, I actually graduated art center in 2004. So
Wow.
that was pretty much, yeah,
Wow. Jeez.
20 years ago. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, you
Time
uh
flies.
I think I only know probably I don't know 2 or 3 people from back then that I used to look like way back, and that's not like, probably half your time, like 10, 12 years, 15 years ago. Um, but like Fenzu is like one of those that has been in the industry for for as long as I can remember. Like you're one of those
Hmm.
too, and it's just like crazy because you have seen how the digital art or even artwork in entertainment industry has evolved in the last 20 years because digital art hasn't been long in this it seems like it, but it's only been out for like I don't know 20, 25 years maybe
Hmm.
less,
Hmm.
um
Absolutely.
which is crazy. So how like and you've been teaching for quite a long time too. um
Hmm.
do you think like has your approach to navigate the industry change because of the all the changes that have been made? Like you tell the students something different now than what you used to tell them before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that technology finds its way into every aspect
Right.
of like every industry, right? And so with when I was coming out of school, the portfolio, um, you didn't need to have digital art.
Right.
And yeah, it was still a lot of drawing and paintings, like we would have original art like in the
Right. Oh
plastic
yeah,
sleeves,
those
right?
big black sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were like, oh man, I hope they return our portfolios, that kind of thing. So even from then till now, which nowadays people have concept art that has motion in it.
Right.
you know People who don't have an animation background or like a rigging 3D background, they're able to import quite easily their concept art into programs and add some really cool animation to it, make it pop off the wall. And so what ends up happening when everything pops off the wall, everyone has these abilities to pop off the wall, well, it goes all the way back to really good content.
Right.
It's like the cat chasing or the dog chasing the tail. It's always going in a circle where when ideas are really plentiful, we chase technology and advancing. And then when that gets really good, it's like, oh, well, where do we go from here? It's kind of like always going in a circle. So that's what I like to tell the students is there's always a vacuum, that happens. So like whenever there's like a lot of high fidelity, like a lot of detail oriented production, like movies and such, what happens on the opposite end? Super stylized,
Mm.
because it needs to create that balance,
Right.
and our job like description is in the title of what we are. We are conceptual designers. And so a lot of our focus, at least, man, even for me, was about how to do the artistic side. And then later I realized that it's it's chasing both. It's always doing both.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
keeping that balance. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Do you think or would you recommend an artist, because I'm sort of curious about what your point of view is on this. Do you recommend an artist to navigate those changes? Because like you said, like I feel like there's a lot of like super realistic praise coming up, and then at the same time to balance that, there's a lot of stylized. Do you recommend artists to navigate and sort of like change, or just stick to one of those two?
Oh, I think that's based on personality, you
Right.
know? Yeah, totally on your personality. And I think the more like you yourself know yourself and what you trigger towards, what you react well towards, I think that's very powerful as a designer, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Like like I know some individuals that can work on literally one project for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like they could stay at one company, work on one IP in 10 years of like
And they're
drawing the
good.
same thing, and
Yeah.
they're like, man, I love it. Me, 10 days, I'm like, hey, get me on something else, you know? And that's the thing is that's my personality. I'm
Right.
like that with a lot of things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So um, but I think one thing that's interesting to see is like I think when it comes to technology, people have a fear. It's great, but there's also a fear of, well, how does this affect like my longevity as an as like
Right.
having a job and a career? And you know, we're facing this new age of generated art and things like that. But you know, in the past, there's always been a thing that's been a threat,
Right.
right? Maybe conceived as a threat, or more maybe conceived as an advancement or something. But you know, there's this artist named Steve Berg, Burg, I believe that's how you spell his last name,
Mm.
Steve Berg. He's a concept artist that works in games, film, all sorts of different things. And let me tell you this, he's so OG, right? That he's like from Terminator 2. He worked on Terminator 2
Wow.
with the T1000, like bringing the,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
liquid
yeah,
metal, like
yeah.
he drew it in pencil. Like that's how original, like that's how back in the day is, right? But he's now he's a much older gentleman. Okay, just by the years, like you can, from
Right.
Terminator 2 till now. But he keeps up with technology. Anything new software comes out, he learns it. He's
He's learning.
adapting it
Yeah.
into a system. If you look at his art, you can never tell like his age.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
some ways you can see that. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
With the techniques that people use and stuff like that. But I think that's something that we have to remember. You know, it's
Mm.
like adaptive, though, to be adaptive to. But
Right. 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 Have you ever, or even if it was for a minute or a second, have you ever thought about a plan B if this whole art thing crashes into the ground? Worst case scenario.
oh gosh, so art is such a rooted part of my life,
Yeah.
right? That concept art became the like I guess it's like playing sports. It's probably one of the best ways to put it. It's, let's say you like to play a lot of sports. That's like art. You just very active, you engage, you like the team aspect, you like the sports. Um, and the more you do, let's say you keep improving, and eventually you find a sport that just happens to be in your direction.
Mm.
You like the energy of the people. And for me, that was concept art.
Mm.
Okay. But now I'm much older and I have played through the games. You know, there's certain things that I wanted to achieve that, fortunately stars line up and hard work pays off, and we're able to do those things. And so now it's like the evolution now,
Right.
of education, of
Yeah.
of getting another generation to, really experience the same things. So plan B was never a plan B. It was always a form of evolution.
Right. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, always keeping that ball moving forward rather than thinking, because I thought, and what's the important thing is always having like not a mentor. It's such a loaded word these days,
Yeah.
but just someone who's all, like willing to give you some advice of where they are, and you know that you're going to be in that position or place one day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So having someone just to say, man, when you get to a certain age, like you don't want to be the best concept artist. You want to maybe like help the team, or you want to see if you can, what other things you can do, and maybe starting your own studio or starting your own art brand. Like there's just more evolution. And so you know how a lot of baseball players become like baseball coaches,
Mm,
right? And become more of like a leadership or guidance role. I think that's where I'm all about, man.
yeah, that's good. That's great that you mentioned that, because that's actually in the back of my mind, sort of like that's sort of the place where I'm at. Because I've been in the industry for about 10 to 12 years, and for the past year or so, it's been happening, that sort of like evolution that you're talking about. Because I personally, like, I didn't grow up with art, unlike you. Like, I started doing art on my 20s, and so I don't have like a really rooted emotional passion for it, in terms of like me drawing for 8, 12 hours a day, just because I really love it, type thing. I've been shifting my passion has shifted into actually working on those passion projects, like be part of a Marvel movie, or like a really IP that I really love, type thing, but not necessarily doing the artwork per se. Like, I wouldn't mind managing a team, and being part of the pipeline, and doing all these more directing sort of things. Yeah, doing art from time to time, or sort of like a production designer or something like that. Um, so that sort of like has been in the back of my mind, which is what another huge reason why I wanted to have a chat with you as well, because
Mhm.
I mean, you founded um, Scribble like back in 2008, was it?
That's yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
2008.
yeah, and I mean, you also co-founded, Brainstorm with John and Thomas as well. Um,
Mhm.
but for the past couple of years, like, for example, because I'm sort of like curious about what was the how process on how you did that, but also like the why you did that. Because in my case, for example, like for the past couple of years, sometimes I get a lot of like freelance work on the side that I just can't take because of many reasons, time, I'm not super passionate about the project, etc. But I'm thinking, like, if I had a group of artists that are at my sort of like disposal, that are ready to work, I can just pass that along, that artwork, or those gigs, and then sort of give them jobs, but also create some sort of like a company,
Mhm.
or whatever. So was that the reason why you did that?
So the initial start, oh man, and it kind of resonates with what's happening sort of these days.
Mm,
Uh, so the 2008 in 2008 when Squirrel Pad started, 2007 was a high year and ended very low. So at that time I was working at NCSoft. It was a Korean studio in Santa Monica. They had some other studios in the States,
yeah.
but it was sort of my, hey, this is the goal I want to reach. Certain position, certain company, certain project, certain pay, and it was all kind of hitting these nice marks. Then we had a like an international like economic crisis
Right.
in 2008. The entire American like economy crashed
Yeah.
because of all sorts of craziness. And so that studio that I was working for, that I felt like, oh, I hit all the marks I wanted, they're like, hey guys, we're shutting our doors in 1 month, right? So in
Jeez.
1 month, you're out of a job. And I'm like looking around and I'm like, you just had a baby. You just bought a house. I'm like, this is some real stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was like boom, like I've like school never taught us about this kind of a
Right.
thing.
Right.
So it was really about, all right, kind of digging deep a little bit. I thought of this as an opportunity. All right, um, and why? It's because you know, let's say if you're at a good position, making 100,000, 6 figures or something like that, and you're comfortable, doing your own thing sounds really, really, really risky.
Right.
Especially with the security that's over there. Now, if that security goes away, then this risk now looks like an opportunity, right?
Right, right,
So
right, right.
I went forward with that, and that's why ScribblePad started, because I just wanted to start. Number one, I had a class at Art Center called Small Business Management.
Mm,
It was actually a really cool class because illustrators back in the day were normally freelancers. So it was a class to sort of prepare you with the laws and the taxes and sort of the know-how to navigate in the freelance world. So one of the first things I did was, okay, I got to start an LLC, a company. So I started that, and for some reason, I just didn't want to start it with my name, like James Pack Studio or
right.
whatever. I just kind of ran with something, but it started off, and eventually, I was just kind of doing steady work. But just like what you were saying, more work came in that I started to reject. However, there were some friends that were like, hey, that actually kind of suited some of the work. So I'll recommend the friends, but they're like, oh no, but we kind of want you to do it. And so I offered like this in between. It was like, hey, what if I acted as an art director in between? Would that still work? Because then we can kind of both get it all done. And they're like, yeah, let's try it out. I never thought that that was a possibility because no one gives you the rule book.
Right.
But it's really about just like poking and see if you get a reaction, right? Just because you're trying to solve a problem. And I think that's what's the important thing. You're not trying to find a benefit just for yourself, but it's how do we both work on win-win and solve the problem. And I think that's one of the best ways to create like a relationship, especially on a business to business side. And I think that's what eventually kicked it off. That started to happen, and little by little, I would try to listen into not eavesdrop, but like when people talk about their projects, they talk about, oh yeah, we're going to be launching next year, and we're launching in the summer, so we're really cracking down on trying to create these environments. So I
Mm.
was like, oh wow, it sounds like you have a lot of load. So I start to offer. It's like, hey, I have other artists that I've managed, and we've done this type of work under this structure. Let me show you what we've done before. If it helps, cool. If not, then we'll just do what we're discussing, and that's what just kind of opened it all up.
Mm,
Eventually, the studio, which Scribblepad Studios was just me, became a company. I would say more like 4 years later.
mm.
Was never the intention, never started. I just had a LLC because I remembered my teacher, Errol Gerson, that was his name. He was like, you needed to save some taxes. You'll save some taxes if you just do it that way. It's the best
Right.
thing to do, and it protects your liabilities. And I'm like, okay, just do that. And so, but luckily with that, there's certain requirements that and loopholes that you have to jump through when you start working as like a company, as like a
Right.
vendor. But those are again things that you just kind of learn on the way. There's no rule books, you
Mm.
know, and so it's it's kind of slide of tongue sometimes. It's funny. So I remember I didn't know what the requirements were to get all the checklists to be a vendor for working at this one at a Sony company. And so rather than asking like, oh, we've never done this before, it's, oh, could you remind me of your requirements again? Because I know some companies are a little bit different. So it's like I could still kind of
Yeah,
get what
yeah,
I
yeah,
need,
yeah.
but it's really about trying to fish. You're trying to get the answers. You
Mm.
got to know what words to type into Google to get the right, responses back. And it's kind of the same thing.
So you were basically any freelance work, after that time that you got, you were just passing it through Scribble Pass Studios. Um,
Yeah,
huh. Okay.
as much as possible.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And so when you had, and you don't have to give me like specific so how do you still? Because one of the things that I wonder about is like, how do you structure the financial part of it? Because let's just say, for example, this company wants you to do an artwork, and it's paying, just to put a round number, $5,000, for example, or $1,000. But you are not the one doing it, so you're passing that artwork to the artist. Are you putting a additional charge to that because of your involvement in it, or you're sort of splitting whatever their budget is between you guys? Like, how do you structure that?
So in the beginning when we were maybe it was just myself and another artist and
Right.
like a friend doing it, we would just split it. Hey, let's just do the work together, split it. Eventually later on it became, because eventually people that you work with want some stability,
Yeah.
right? Something a little bit more, I guess, um, has good maintenance on it, right? So at that point, it became all right. We're just gonna have like salary or monthly pay,
Hmm.
do all the work, and then have like like a profit share. So there's like different structures,
Right. Right.
that we kind of did. Um, but one of the things with pay was this is or understanding the financial side was when we're jumping into an industry that we've never worked in, right? So I've worked in games, but I've never done games in freelance or this whole freelance world. So I told myself the first year at least has to be purely about data,
Mm.
gathering data. So it's almost about taking any job. Oh, you're paying $100 for a full painting? Okay,
Yes.
for the sake of data, I will do it because I need to know, like, because there's tangible value, which is like in the form of a dollar, and that's intangible value, which is experience, knowing how to talk to people. Oh, this is the
Yeah.
pipeline, and this is how you engage, and blah 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 blah. Those things are worth like thousands and thousands and thousands of
Who you
dollars. So it's
know.
almost like
Yeah.
right. So it's called like life university, right? Like you got to pay
Right.
tuition,
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, but after getting a lot of data, you realize that, oh man, some projects are like have a high budget, some projects have a little to no budget. Some projects you like the people, some projects you don't like the people, and you're just somewhere in the middle. And that's where you want to find your comfort zone, right?
Right.
So there's been times I've worked with some art directors, and they're like, dude, I'm in a jam. And we don't have much budget for this, dude, but like can you help me out, James? And I'm like,
Yeah.
of course I can. Like we've worked for years
Right.
together.
Right.
Man, you've got me the big projects. Heck yeah, of course. Because again, this is a people thing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we all have to remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's great that you say that because I always say that, um, I always hear, especially from younger artists, oh, I would never work for free, or I wouldn't take a job for less than whatever the amount, and I think that's a huge mistake. You just put all the value that you get from a project just on the monetary part of it, because there are connections. And I gotta tell you how many times, and you probably have this too, where the connections have had way more value than the work. And sometimes you're in a pitch, and then this person that you work with a year before that you did some work in a day, they know that they can rely on you because you can get the work done, and they give you more job, or they introduce you to somebody else. And so there's a lot of value in all the things outside of the money. You just gotta um, uh, be wise about picking the right opportunities as well. um,
Mhm.
but how's your ratio between, because I mean, at your core you're still an artist,
Yeah.
but you're also managing squirrel paths and brainstorm. What's your ratio between doing art and the business side of things now?
Oh man, I my art. So one very positive aspect about doing brainstorm is teaching art classes. I get a lot of art doing my teaching side.
Nice.
Um, so right now there's just a lot there's just a lot to manage. I used to do tons of art um, when I was doing on the creative direction side and art direction side. It's slowed down a little bit now, but I still find ways to get it out,
Yeah.
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 I
Nice.
there's it's interesting where it's just like a little bit of shift of focus where I get this the same as artists. We all know that feeling when we like the piece of art to me doesn't give me like the reward. It's like seeing the
Mm.
improvement over some time. That's what's very rewarding for myself, just to be purely honest. And that's the like working with a team and seeing that progressive growth gives me the same reward as if I was doing art.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I kind of get I get the same feeling from it, even though I'm not doing it, if that makes
Right,
sense.
right, right. Oh yeah, yeah. It does
Yeah.
sort of makes sense because I was actually I've been asking the people that I've been talking to, is there anything outside of the art world that gets you that same feeling that you
Oh
do?
man. Yes. So it's I was saying earlier I'm into cars.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm like into like I like racing, and
Nice.
yeah, I go to I'm part of like a racing series and stuff.
That's cool.
But it's like we do these things to drive and just save like 0.1 second, 0.2 second,
Right.
just these little bits of time and we're like, yes, and we get really hyper focused on that. And I think that's kind of like how concept artists are,
Mhm,
it's just
mhm.
like doing practice, and we see like improvement, micro, incremental improvement. So it's cool, But stuff like cars, and to be honest, I like anything that has a process. You
Mm.
know, I like anything that if you there's like a recipe, and the more you just repeat the same thing, the result gets better. It's like
Okay.
such a puzzle to life. We do the same thing, but it gets better. But it's like cooking, it's
Yeah, yeah.
art, it's exercise, it's sports, it's music, it's so many things. Even if you just practice it the same way, it's quite amazing. So
Right, 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 right. Yeah,
yeah.
it's I always say that so in my house I grew up, my father was the one that stayed at home and he was always cooking. That was his like love language. He
Nice.
would cook for anybody that would get to my house, and everybody would go to my house for him to cook. And it's funny because he will give me the exact steps to do, rice and beans, or a pastelon or whatever the case, and I would do exactly what he told me, but it would never come out at the beginning the same way. And I'm like, I'm doing exactly the same thing, but it's just that experience and that thing into that craft.
Especially the simple things. It looks
Right.
simple. Oh man, they're simple and easy are like they don't. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. Right. 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 Right.
There's like simple food. It's oh my god, it's so hard to do, but it's amazing.
um. So I got three sort of like, not quick questions, but sort of like specific questions. But the first one is sort of like a quick one. If I give you $1,000 right now, what do you do with it?
At this point, it would be gosh, I would probably invest like just like I'm like trying to plan for just like more future stuff. So I'd probably just
Mm-hmm.
save
Mm-hmm.
save a bit of it,
Yeah.
like invest it away. But
Yeah.
I would do things with my wife and son.
Nice.
It's like really simple thing. Get a pizza and go to a park. Do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of chill out. I like that. Go
Nice.
camping.
Nice. 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 And so how does James right now defines success for himself? What does
Success
that
right
look
now.
like?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's interesting. Pre 2000 or pre 2020
Mm-hmm.
is different. Post 2020, I think.
Yeah.
I think staying at home,
Mm.
and there's a lot of noise out there. Everyone, there's so much
Yeah.
noise, and there's so many things that are distracting us.
Yeah.
Um, Success for me before 2020 was like, oh, go to the highest mountain peak as high as you can, and But right now, I think it's about balance, dude. You know, um, success is like for me, being able to maintain a core balance with. There's this great book called the Minimalist,
Mm.
the minimalism, yeah, and they talk about 5 core things. I think those 5 core things are great. It's like health, family, passion, giving back, all
Right.
these core factors. I think balancing that for me is success.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially because of your 3-year-old now, and probably thinking a whole new different way now about life and stuff and family, staying
hmm
home that much.
hmm
You mostly work remotely, nowadays?
Yeah, everything's at home. The whole team, yeah, from the studio side to the school side, yes, everything.
Cool. 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 Cool.
Yeah. One thing is this, I want to add this is like, I remember trying to chase success. And there, it was like draw as much as you can, work
Mm,
so many hours, and it was about trying to see how much I could produce
mm,
and how much I could make. It became a chase of that, and um, when you're young, you will put your health aside. You will do other things to chase that, and for some people, it's very important to chase that.
mm,
Uh, for me, it was embedded in my childhood. Like
right.
I had parents that were like, "You got to be successful and you got to do this." So for me, yeah, it was definitely like that. But at a certain point, you're like, man, there becomes like uh, you notice that just one part of your pile is getting all the attention,
Yeah.
and you're like, whoa, something's gonna fall, something's gonna topple over. And I think for me, knowing like that realization was that shifted everything for me, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was recently talking to somebody about that as well. And I feel like, and it's something I'm still sort of trying to figure out if it's true or not, but I almost feel like for example in your case you have to go through those years of like grinding and having that unbalanced life to realize what's truly important, because I don't think if you go through that you're not gonna really look back and put things more in perspective and be mindful about those really important things, especially if you're getting like a family and having a more stable life and having more people that depend on you type thing. So I think like going through that is almost like part of the recipe or part of the ingredients in order to get to that realization and shifting that
yeah,
that mindset a little bit.
totally agree, man. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
So last question, because I don't want to take too much of your time, but um, this is I always ask this at the end for everybody. But you've been in the industry for almost 20 years, and I always say if you're doing something for so long, um, you have to make some sort of like sacrifices and things that you have to just give up or that really hurt. And a lot of the times, most people or nobody realizes the stuff that you're doing as a sacrifice in order to achieve something or create something. So what that has been for you, what that one sacrifice.
Sacrifice. You know, gosh, the stuff that we do, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of input on time, and definitely think the sacrifices were in some core moments, right? Where like at a certain age, let's say you're like 25 years old, you're like, man, all my friends are doing this, they're doing that. I'm sitting here a Saturday night drawing figures, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I doing this? And some of the temptations are so readily there, right? Fast forward 5, maybe even 10 years later, it shifts, and we'll all understand the reward because it's very rare in life where someone can say, my job is something that I love to do. It's
Mm,
part of my hobby. It's part of my passion. It's all rolled into one, and people get jealous of that,
yeah.
right? It's so rare, and so it's a trade-off. You know what I mean? That's what I guess I kind of realized is that sacrifice is exactly what it is. It's a sacrifice. It's not something that you're just giving out. It's to get something later. And I think as long as you kind of remember that, oh man, it's going to be good. Um, part of part of giving up something is like by ritual. It might sound kind of funny, but by ritual, the act of sacrifice is to get something in
Right.
return,
Right.
right? And just remember that. That's all we got to remember, because
Yeah.
sometimes again, all this distraction everywhere makes us want things fast, makes us want things too immediate. But just remember, things take time. Art takes a little bit of time. Just don't stop. That's the one thing that I'll say is just don't stop. Don't get off that horse, and you're gonna get really far, farther than you probably thought you would be. So
Yeah, I mean it's like working out, right? If you go to a gym for 8 hours, you're not gonna get any thinner. But if you go for 8 months for just 20 minutes a day, every day, that consistency is what's really gonna bring that it's not really about intensity; it's more about consistency. Then,
That's so true.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but James, man, it's been a quite an honor to, well, first to meet you and also talk to you for a little bit. I really hope that we can meet in person one day. I'm actually planning to go to Cali someday, so I need to meet up with Thomas
Awesome.
and you and John and all that. So it'll be an honor to finally see you guys. But thanks again for coming, and we really appreciate it. And congratulations on what you have accomplished. It's really
Oh,
great.
dude, thank you, Jose. It's been an honor. Great chatting, and yeah, dude, keep this up. This is so cool.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man.
Have a good day.
Take care, man. Bye.